Better bang that loud.
Oh, that's right.
Better do it again.
I'd like to call the Romulus Board of Education meeting to order. This meeting is scheduled for May 12th, 2008 at 6:30. Would we please have roll call?
Miss Kraut.
Here.
Miss Frere.
Present.
Miss Buckley.
Here.
Mr. Minkevich.
Here.
Mr. Kudik present. Miss Roscoe and Miss Lanasi are excused.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Somebody switch chairs on me.
All right, the first item on the agenda would be the approval of the consent agenda. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under the report of the superintendent under his portion of the agenda.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Buckley, supported by Mr. Kuderik, for approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, we will take a vote. All those in favor say yes.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda would be the report of the superintendent. Mr. Weiss?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have three presentations tonight. We're going to begin our presentations with Ms. Johnson, the principal at Wick Elementary, and we have a group of presenters, I believe, from Wick Elementary School. So we're ready for you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Mrs. Johnson. This is my second year serving as an administrator at Wick Elementary, and I just want to thank you first for your continual support, and just to let you know that I do not take the job lightly. I have with me this evening a couple of my staff members, as well as my parents and students of Wick, and I want to thank my parents for allowing the students to come out. Every year and every day, we're faced with the task of trying to evaluate ourselves to see how well we meet the needs of our struggling students. In fact, many people feel that the quality of a school's learning environment is measured by how well they address the needs of their at-risk students. And actually, WIC shares this belief. This is one of the reasons why we have decided to implement a response to intervention model at our school. And what response to intervention is an emerging approach for identifying at-risk students. But the key is schools must first show that students did not respond to scientifically based resources or interventions. Last year was the first year that we actually implemented the response to intervention. And this year we continued with that initiative or with that model. And as you can see, we are starting to see some progress. If you look at last year's data, at most grade levels, we saw an increase with a slight decrease at the third grade level. Tonight, what we hope to do is to show you how response to intervention works at Wick School, and then to expose you to one of the research-based resources that we use at the school. And after that, you will hear from one of our parents or satisfied parents, and then you will see how using this model has affected the number of referrals that we have for reading at the school. So now I would like to hand the microphone over to Ms. Corinza Smith, and she will explain more about the RTI, or the 3 tiers approach.
The response to intervention model, like Mrs. Johnson said, is a model that is really structured to help our students that are struggling academically. This model is done in 3 tiers, and if you look over here on the PowerPoint presentation, you will see that there are 3 tiers on the model. The first tier is called Tier 1, which is our Tier 1 instruction. This tier is taught by the classroom teacher, and it's the basic core classroom curriculum. So it's what she teaches on a daily basis to the whole entire class. Out of the 100% of the students in the classroom, there are approximately 20 to 30% of the students that don't grasp that concept in Tier 1. So they have a difficult time understanding the concept in this core classroom instruction. So what they do, what the teacher does, is put them in what we call a Tier 2 instruction. This is an intervention that is done normally in a small group. It's either taught by the teacher or the reteacher or the paraprofessional, and it's the same core classroom curriculum, but it's just taught in a smaller group to hopefully help the students grasp the concept. Out of the 20% of those students that didn't grasp it in Tier 1, there are 5 to 10% of those students that still didn't grasp it out of the Tier 2 instruction. So when the reteacher or the para or the classroom teacher actually taught the Tier 2 instruction in small group, there's still about 5 to 10% of the students that still don't understand that concept. So those students are placed in what we call Tier 3 instruction. The Tier 3 instruction is either taught by the classroom teacher, or it's done by the reteacher, or the paraprofessional, or also by the Title I learning specialist. The Tier 3 instruction is normally a one-on-one basis, and it's still that same core curriculum, but it's done in a way that's taught differently than it was either taught in the core curriculum or in the small group. So those are the basic structures of the Tier 3 instruction. All of the tiers are progress monitored on a regular basis to make sure that the students are either staying in the tier or getting out of the tier based on their level of understanding the grade level content expectations. To explain a little bit more about the tiers in the lower L and the upper L, we'll have Makara Frazier talking about the lower L, and then Tavia Redmond talking about the upper L.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Response to intervention in the lower elementary, we gather data from the DIBELS progress monitoring, which occurs bi-weekly or weekly, depending upon Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction, and the spelling inventory throughout the year. We use the data to diagnose our weaknesses, our weaknesses our students have, and to come up with our groupings and our interventions. All lower L elementary teachers complete an intervention sheet, which is a record, an ongoing record of all of our skills taught, and we house it inside of an intervention folder. The folder is a great communication tool that allows us as teachers, reteachers, and paraprofessionals to see where our students are in their skills and growing. Tier 3 instruction is explicit and covers phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. The students are pooled by myself or by the reteacher or para to given additional practice. While Tier 3 and Tier 2 instruction is occurring, the rest of the class is participating in practice activities which allow them to differentiate the instruction. It works on word work, phonics games, study island language arts, Odyssey, and other enrichment activities. Two of our greatest resources are our paraprofessional and our reteacher. They are assigned to our class in the morning and an afternoon time, and they pull these students and give them further instruction. Also, we have our Read Naturally Lab, which we started this year, which also works one-on-one with each student at their reading level. To explain the response to intervention in the upper elementary, we have Tavia Redmond.
Good evening. In the upper L, we do the same thing with the tiers as far as going through and doing our one-on-one instruction. We start off with whole group instruction, in which I will address the entire class with a lesson. And the Tier 2 comes for those individuals who are still not reaching the objectives that have been taught as a whole group instruction. So what I would do is, while the rest of the class is continuing to work on either reading the novel or reading or working on any of the other assignments that have been assigned, I will then take a small group of students whom I will work with in groups and making sure that they are now able to meet those same objectives that the rest of the students have met. While this is going on, if I notice that I have students in this group who are still not meeting those objectives, I will then work with them in what I call the Tier 3, which will be a one-on-one. A lot of times while I'm working with a small group and the rest of the class is working, my read teacher also takes a small group which she's working with also. She may pull them and place them in the hallway, work in the kayak, or somewhere else in the classroom so that we're not disturbing the rest of the students. We also go through, and a lot of the students that I have identified as being in the Tier 3 are now students who are going to the Read Naturally Lab every day for 20 minutes, in which they work with Ms. Perkins, and she gives them the one-on-one instruction that they also need so they are able to meet those objectives for the grade level. We have a chart, and each student has folders in which we keep the assignments that we give them, and we place them in the folder so that when they go with the read teacher, she knows exactly what they're going to be working on. I also keep a notebook which I log the date, the assignment, and the students that I have worked with, so that I am now able to look at and look back to see where I have instructed them on what they may have had difficulties with. This also helps as a very great tool as far as communication with the parents. When the parents want to know, are their students or their child receiving any extra help, I can pull out the exact date and what I worked with their child on. Also, in case we need to bring them up to a building team, I have the information and documentation right there that will assist and let the parents or those in the meeting know exactly what's going on. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Perkins, who is going to have a presentation along with the students about the Read Naturally Lab.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm going to explain the rationale to Read Naturally, why we have the program, and how we think it works for us. The Read Naturally program provides a method that improves the children's fluency and comprehension. And research demonstrates a strong correlation between reading fluency and comprehension. And we know that students become fluent readers by reading over and over again, by repetition. And when struggling readers or benchmark readers, in some cases, it gives them the enrichment that they need and the encouragement that they need to advance and move on into their reading. Okay, and so along with that, we have incentives and rewards for the children because they enjoy that. And we keep a incentive or a sticker chart where they get so many stickers for each story they read. When they get to 5 stories, and they have to complete reading the story in a timed fluency session with me, and then they also have to finish their comprehension questions and be able to retell what they read. So it's quite a feat for them, but they do an awesome job on it. And when they get to the 5 stickers, they get to go to the reward chart, and then when it's time for them to move on to a new level, they get a certificate. And we have been keeping very tight data to see, so we can see where we began and where we're moving on to. And we had 85 students enrolled in the program in January, 24 students graduated from the program in April, and 13 students tested into the program, and half of those were kindergartners that are reading above grade level, so they're there for enrichment. This is an example of the procedure sheet that the kids use, the students use, to keep track of their order. So they know that they're doing every step that they need to do to get to the point where they're ready for testing. So this helps them keep on track, and it helps them. They bring this up with them, and they get it's a score sheet for them. And they're very proud of these score sheets. They take them home to mom and dad, and they show them to their teacher, and they make huge improvements, and they can keep track of the improvements in the classroom this way and at home. So we are going to do a little skit for you. Each student works at their own individual level, but for our skit tonight, we're just going to use one story from level 1.0 to demonstrate our Read Naturally procedures. So we have Kendall Dorsey and Dylan Glenn. Okay, this is Kendall Dorsey. She's from Mrs. Wood's kindergarten class. And this is Dylan Glenn. Very good. From Mrs. Lloyd's first grade class. So, Kendall?
First, I get my procedure sheet and my reading folder, and I pick my story out and check that step off my procedure sheet. I get my CD and put it in my CD player and press play to read along with the keyword.
Level 1.0, Story 17, A Picnic. Track 1, Keywords. Read along quietly while I read the key words and their definitions. Park, a place outside where people go to play.
This is where the kids are tracking the vocabulary that's being introduced to them in the story. So this is usually vocabulary that hasn't been introduced to them. So they are learning the keywords, new vocabulary that they'll be using in the piece that they'll be reading.
Where you live. Stop the CD. Use the title, picture, and keywords to help you write a prediction.
I stop the CD and check that step off and write my prediction. For example, I think the story is about eating at a picnic, then press play again to listen to the story for first time.
So then they would listen to the story for a first time, and we won't play the whole story, but just to show you what would happen next. They would press play again.
A picnic. Track 2.
And they would be tracking with their finger.
While I read. People eat outside at a picnic. The food is made at home. People take the food to a park.
So that would be the first time they listen to it, and they listen to it 2 other times, but they go back and forth between listening and reading.
I check off listen and next I read the story to myself using my whisper phone. People eat outside at a picnic. The food is made at home. People take the food to a park. They can eat on the grass. They can eat on a table. It is fun to eat outside. It is fun to play at a picnic too. Children run at a picnic. They play games at a picnic. They play on the swings, they go down a slide. Picnics are a lot of fun.
Okay. And then they would listen to the story 2 more times, and they would read the story 1 more time. And then Kendall will tell you what you do last.
Finally, I answer my questions about the story, and I check that step off my procedure sheet. After I answer my questions, I write a retell. We put our testing cup on red to show we are ready to be tested.
And then they will, when I see that they're ready, I'll go to them or they'll come to me, and I put 1 minute on my timer, and they read through. And if they have no mistakes, and as far as they read, then we mark that score down. And at the end, and everybody has a copy of this, at the end, we will write down the number of words we have. This is Yanni and Naya. They're also in our group. Here, Naya, you can finish this up. Go ahead, Naya. I'm sorry. Read right there.
Here?
Mm-hmm.
If I meet and pass my goal, I put a sticker next to my name on the incentive chart.
When I have 5 stickers in a row, I will get a prize out of the reward jar.
All together.
Thank you for listening to our skip about Read Naturally.
Thank you. And we have Mr. Glenn, Mr. Lorenzo Glenn, that's Dylan's dad. He would like to come up and say something about the program.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Just wanted to say that this was a group effort. My wife, my mother and father, and of course Dylan. Outstanding effort from the reading lab. There were many books sent home every day, and they have a little sheet in it that says too easy, just right, too hard. Well, I usually had comments to add to. Dylan would be watching me to see which one I checked. Usually it's just right, but I'll put a comment. We sounded out so many words, because you want to be honest with this, be honest with your child and yourself. So Dylan and I always checked off the right one. Also, I would let him sound his words out. I don't want to sound the words out for him. So if he comes to something that he can't sound out, I'll give him a chance to sound it out. And he'll go through and he'll underline the words that he didn't understand. Then we'll go back and reread the story as they said from the reading lab. You want to reread it and give honest assessments for your child. And that's suggested by the reading lab. We'll reread the stories, and we read every night because it's repetition. So the more you read, the more comfortable they are. And you see in their little faces when it lights up that they're getting more comfortable. So, and that's the goal of the program. So the reading lab played a very important part in Dylan's development, and our family together tried to reinforce the instructions that they would send home. So that was our part. The reading lab played a big part in the school, and then when you come home as a parent, you want to do your part, and then you'll see success really fast.
Thank you.
And last, we have Mrs. Gonzalez, our resource teacher, to present our special education data.
Well, this is brief, but I think becoming big. We started out with last year with 12 referrals for special ed that involved reading. I was separating out just those who needed reading. This year, we only needed 8 referrals that involved reading. Not all of those kids ended up being certified in special ed students. The ones, when we referred the 12 for evaluation, it ended up that we had 6 kids ended up in special ed. because of the reading. And then this past year, the 2008, out of these 8, 3 became in special ed students. So we're seeing our special ed needs go down from the start of this Read Naturally, and I mean the RTI program. And all the programs that they do with the reteachers and the paraprofessionals, there's quite a bit of focus on reading in, and helping kids of all levels, and I am seeing special ed referrals going down regarding the reading.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Great presentation. And again, board members, I just want to reaffirm that one of our solutions in all of our elementary buildings is early interventions, reaching those students when they're in kindergarten, first, second, and sometimes third grade, and helping them get over that hump so that they can read fluently. It's a great solution. Next up, we have our physical education department, and I can't remember the last time I saw all the phys ed people in one place. They're all here tonight for us, all right? So we'll turn the floor over to them.
Thanks for having us tonight. Thanks for having us tonight. What I want to do here is just kind of introduce what we do in phys ed. Phys ed is not what it used to be back in the old days where you just threw out the balls and let them run around and play. We actually try to accomplish some things. But before I get started, I'd like to introduce our department that is here. If you guys want to stand up, and I'll introduce you as we go along here. Over here on the computer, we have Sheila Stazak, who is at Barth Elementary. Back in the corner, we have Bill Baum, who is at Romulus Elementary. Gail Millspaw, who is at Corey and Hale Creek Elementary. Pat McCullum, who is at Merriman. And our 2 middle school, Kelly Kubaney and Keith Brothers. And I know Keith is under the weather. Keith, thanks for sticking it out with us. And then our trusted leader and courageous leader, who I know is extremely busy, our athletic director, Mark Woodson, who is the head of our PE department. What we have, we put together just, I'm sorry, and myself. I'm Anthony Lisco. I'm the phys ed teacher at Wick Elementary and Corey Elementary also. Thank you. We put together a little PowerPoint. We'll go over elementary first, and then I'll hand it over to Kelly and Keith for the middle school. Basically, our mission statement is just to provide all students with the knowledge, skills, fitness, attitude to lead a healthy lifestyle. That is our main goal. We put some stats in at the bottom. You can take a look at them. Some of them are pretty alarming. The obesity rates we know are increasing, and that's what makes teaching students to live a healthy lifestyle and a quality physical education program to use those. Here's some of our stars in action. We got some future NBA players maybe, I don't know. But here's the purpose of our program. To provide appropriate activities, developmentally appropriate activities, facilitate the acquisition of physical, social, emotional skills, again, develop a positive attitude, and a knowledge base that will keep them active for a lifetime. Basically, what our purpose is not only to educate them in how to lead a healthy lifestyle, eating right, getting a good night's sleep, staying physically active. You know, we also want to get them moving when they come to us. A lot of times, a lot of our kids, that's the only exercise they get is when they get to us. And unfortunately, it's only a couple times a week. We'd like to see them just about every day. But, you know, the times are changing. You know, a lot of them go home and they're on a computer or they're on, you know, video games now. So sometimes the only time they get to us is, or when they get to us, the only time they actually get to exercise. And main goal of ours is, you know, introduce them to as many activities as we can, as many sports, as many skills. So maybe you get lucky and, you know, they show up and they've never played soccer before. And all of a sudden, wow, you know, Mr. Baum showed us soccer. They go home, tell their mom, I want to try soccer. They get into a rec program, and then the next thing you know, they're playing it in the middle school and high school. So, you know, we want to find something that maybe we can stick with them that they'll be physically active, you know, through the rest of their life. Our curriculum is based on the 2002 content standards set forth by the state. We were also trained this year in a new curriculum, exemplary physical education curriculum, which is nationally recognized. It's health-based and skill-based curriculum, so we've been incorporating that also into our curriculum, along with our benchmarks and standards that we have for the state. All of our students, we try to get them to be with us for at least 90 minutes a week. Some we get 90 minutes, some we get more. You know, we're trying to work on that. A typical class, procedures in our class, they'll walk in, we'll get them warmed up. You know, most of those little bodies have been sitting in a desk for majority of the day. We got to get them warmed up, a little light stretch, a little run. The instructional phase, what we're doing on that day, what we're trying to get accomplished, what activity we're going to play, rules, things like that. Model it for them. That's our instructional phase. Then the actual activity phase, the actual game or drill or whatever we're doing on that day. Hopefully we try to get it to about 30 to 35 minutes of the actual activity phase. We want them moving for that long, okay? And then the last couple minutes of class is our wrap up and cool down. Time to get a drink, get them settled down. You know, I'm sure classroom teachers wouldn't appreciate it if we grabbed them right off the basketball court and sent them back to class all sweaty and wound up, and so we try to cool them down a little bit, review what we went over or what we had in class, what activity we did, what skill we worked on, and things like that. Our students also get fitness tested twice a year, one time in the fall when they first get with us, and another time towards the end of the year in the spring here, they get tested twice. And we would like to see those scores from the beginning of the year to the end of the year improve. I mean, they've obviously grown a few inches. They've gotten stronger, so we like to see those scores. They get tested in 5 areas: sit-ups, pull-ups, sit and reach, shuttle run, and the mile run. And they get awarded certificates if they've improved from the fall to the spring. So if their scores do improve, we want to recognize that, So, and they're also, we hand out ribbons. If they pass 3 out of the 5, we consider they passed the fitness test. They're physically fit, so they'll get a nice ribbon to go with that also. One of the great quotes, one of the best ways to maximize the brain is through exercise and movement. We know that case study after case study has shown that daily physical activity does improve academic performance. It makes them concentrate, focus more. They're more attentive in class, so it does make a difference. Also, we teach reproductive health and HIV and AIDS. Our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students receive reproductive health from the curriculum Puberty, the Wonder Years. Our 6th graders, boys and girls, are also given sessions on HIV and AIDS, and all that material has been approved by the board. So, probably the most fun we have all year is our 6th grade field day. Our 6th graders really look forward to this day. They talk about it all year. They talk about it when they're in 4th and 5th grade that they can't wait to do this. And actually, this Wednesday, mark that on your calendar, is our 6th grade field day at 10 o'clock over at the middle school track, weather permitting. If you can make it, you'll love it. The kids actually really enjoy this day. It's just all the 6th graders from the district get together on that day, and they compete against, in field day events. And we do have a winner, but that's not the most important part of the day. It's actually, you want to promote sportsmanship and have fun. But what we actually really like this day for is it always helps in the transition to the middle school. They finally get to see some other 6th graders that they're going to see in the hallways at the middle school. Maybe, that they didn't know before. They meet them at the field day. They run into the hallway, or next year in middle school. And, weren't you at field day? It kind of helps in that transition from elementary to middle school. We have a bunch of events: long jump, softball, tug of war. But again, we just emphasize sportsmanship and just have fun, and the kids really, really do enjoy it. Some of our highlights that our program that goes kind of above and beyond our curriculum. Most of the schools do all of these, and some do some other ones, and some do these ones. ACES, Walk to School Day. We do league events: jump rope for heart, hoops for heart, walk for diabetes. We have pedometers. Each school is provided with a track, some sort of track around their school. WIC goes to the middle school, which we're very fortunate to have that right next to us. And the other ones have a pavement track around their school, so they can use for miles and, and fitness testing and things like that. Another thing before I hand it over to the middle school is Mr. Woodson works very hard, and our athletic department and PE department works very hard with the rec department to put on this Romulus Youth Summer Camp. It's the week after school. We have brochures that we will be handing out to students promoting this event. It's June 16th to the 20th. We have a bunch of different events that they can sign up for. Every time I come back to school, I get rave reviews about this. The children love it. We have high school coaches and middle school coaches and PE teachers that all put on these kind of mini camps, and they get to choose a couple. I think they run a couple a day. They can kind of 2 different ones a day is how it works, half-hour sessions and things like that. So the kids really enjoy that. So they will be getting these brochures, and it's been well attended in the past, and hopefully it'll be well attended again. So before I hand it over to Keith and Kelly, I just want to say it is a privilege to work with such a passionate group of people. They really do care about their students and their program, and it is an honor to work with them, and also to work with our administrators, because mine's right there. I got to mention her. So they do support our program. They really do, and it's nice to work with someone that really, you know, wants you to succeed and wants the children to succeed. And I thank our administrators for that, and I know everybody will agree with that too. So before I hand it over to middle school, are there any questions for the elementary PE program? Okay, Keith, want to come up? Kelly?
Okay, we just take an extension of what they have already laid the foundation to, and we just build on what they have done. So like their curriculum, our curriculum is based on the state standards and benchmarks. We also have our school improvement plan that we do try to implement and do activities that support the NCA goals through reading or doing some writing within our programs. The goals of our phys ed program is, again, it's going to be aligned with theirs. It's to promote a healthy lifestyle for our kids, so our kids do understand that this isn't just gym class. You need to take it outside of gym class and become active. To introduce the students to activities to create lifelong participation, and Keith will introduce the different activities that we do, but we do lifelong sports, not just team sports. Obviously, to encourage the students to work together cooperatively in order to accomplish a task, you know, the team-oriented games that we play, and then to develop the characteristics of sportsmanship, you know, understanding that not everybody's going to win. We need to take our losses just like we need to take our wins.
So what Kelly talked about earlier, and also the elementary staff, we do also do the physical fitness testing. That's usually after we get our rules and regulations and whatnot at the beginning class started. This is usually the first thing that we start as a PE class. We have them come in, do sit-ups, push-ups, mile run, shuttle relay, the V-sit, and reach. So we do the physical testing. And then we go into the team sports. Usually the first 10 weeks of the semester, and then the last 10 weeks of the second semester, we are outside on the football complex playing flag football, softball, and and soccer. And then the middle 10-week sessions, we well, for my class, we play floor hockey. The female class plays badminton, and we both play volleyball and basketball. And for the lifetime sports that we do at the middle school, we have tennis courts right outside the building, the badminton's inside, and then on Wednesdays, Miss Kubaini takes her class to a weight room that we have. It's a little activities area, and then on Thursdays, my class goes whenever the time permits. So, does anybody have any questions for myself or Miss Kubaini, middle school? Yes.
I actually have a question, but first I'd like to share something that I worked on personally this year with the help of Carl. He's been pretty supportive in getting me some data that I needed. And I just think that it's important to express to the parents at home, with the research that I did this year, it proved that students that do have an hour of gym a day at the middle school level, because that's where I actually had Carl pull the tests from, the students do have less referrals than students who do not have gym. So I just think that, you know, that was important to share. I wanted to share that with the parents and let everybody know. I'm personally a firm believer that every student should be able to get away from their desk for, you know, at least an hour a day and stretch out, and by the time they get back to class, they're a little bit more wound down. They can focus better, you know. So I wanted to share that with you, but I also want to find out, since we have you here, I think we tried something different at the middle school with 10-week classes. Was that new this year? Was that the I just want to know how that went with the students. Did you feel like you got everything in? Because me as a parent, I wanted my student to have gym all year. But because of his schedule, he ended up, I think, with 4 different 10-week classes, which I was okay with. But just to make sure that he got it in. And I just want to know, at the end of the year, I wasn't really happy with the 10-week classes, but can you explain to me what you're able to do with those kids in 10 weeks, if anything?
Well, for me, the first 10 weeks, starting in September, and that one, that card marking ends in the middle of November, around that time. That's usually when I have the kids outside. So we're playing, for my sports, we're playing football, flag football, we're playing soccer, and we're playing softball. So those kids miss out on the opportunity of playing the inside sports because they're moving along to another class, whether it be Mr. Banis's computer class or heading to Miss Santos' cooking class. So for me, I thought some of the kids that had it for only 10 weeks missed out on certain activities.
Sure, yeah, sure, and I can understand that too. But I would actually like Carl, and he's busy right now. I would actually like for him to give us an update on where we're at with the middle school gym for next year, because the last time I talked to him, I'm not 100% sure, and maybe he can speak to this, that we were not going to do, because we also tried co-ed, and to my knowledge, I don't think that worked, and I wasn't very fond of that myself. But it's not my call to make, so if Carl can just give us an update when he gets done in a second, where we're at with that, unless you've heard anything differently.
I haven't heard anything about it, but I know this was the first year trying. 7th grade classes were co-ed, but 8th grade were, I had the males, Ms. Kubani had the females. So it was a trial and error session this year with that, and along with the 7th grade classes, they were 10 weeks and they were co-ed, which is different than what we've had in the past.
So the 8th grade classes, they were not co-ed, or?
They were semester long. I had the males and Ms. Kubani had the females.
So we only actually did the co-ed with the 7th graders. Oh,
Yes.
see, I didn't know that. I thought that 7th and 8th grade had co-ed. Okay, we'll wait for Carl. Only because this has been an issue very dear to my heart this year, so I'd like to see where we're at for next year. But thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I think they're just getting ready.
Yeah.
I'm going to take these because you guys are going to get to read from up there. You guys kind of have to help to know when the time comes. Okay.
Carl, real quick, can you give us an update with the co-ed gym for next year?
Yes, my understanding is that they're going back to single-gender gym for next year. I don't know the answer to whether or not there are 10-week or full semester classes. One of the things they're trying to do at the middle school is offer more alternatives to students. That's why they typically, you see this at the middle school, they offer some 10-week exploratory classes. But scheduling is still a work in progress at this point. But I do know that they've gone back to the single-gender classes.
Okay, and I had just found out, I didn't know this, but I had just found out that that was 7th grade only that we did that with. We didn't do that with 8th grade
The co-ed? No, it was always only 7th grade only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like we have a very eager bunch here from, let me guess, would you be from Barth Elementary School? And, you know, at our last board meeting, I have to tell you that I mentioned Chico bags to our board members, and they didn't know what I was talking about. So I hope you're going to take care of that for us tonight.
They are going to tell you all about Chico bags. Back in March, Julie Flinkman, who was our first grade teacher in our building and our league or Learning to Give coordinator or coach, she asked that we do an Earth Day project. Well, I found these Chico bags, and I brought it up to the children and introduced it to them, and they were so excited. So we've done many things with the Chico bags, so we wanted to do a presentation for you guys. And here's one of our friends that's going to start, Dylan.
Why Chico bags? Billions of plastic bags litter the earth each year. Animals die when they mistake plastic bags for food. Every year, over 4 million trees are cut down for paper, grocery bags. If we tied the yearly using the plastic bags together, it would wrap around the earth 760 times. The average American uses between 300 and 700 plastic bags per year.
Chico is the way to go. A reusable, washable grocery bag that holds over 20 pounds, colorful and easily attaches to purse or pants. They will help save our precious earth.
Students take action. Students began researching the effects of plastic bag waste and paper bag usage. Students became familiar with Chico bags.
This is just a slide of the students. They made their own posters, and we really tried to gear this for the students to sell instead of just being parent-driven or teacher-driven to really get the kids involved. They all made their own posters and did all their own advertising. So it's just a slide of all the
Everything we're talking about at the playground, at lunch, they got this, all the
We
rest
called
of
it the
grades
Chico
very
Mania. It was
excited.
Chico Mania. It was fun.
Students wrote letters. Dear parents, do you go shopping a lot? Well, a Chico bag is the thing for you. Here are some reasons why you might want to buy a Chico bag. They come in many different ways, in many different colors. Chico bags are only $5. They save the earth. Forget about plastic bags. Buy Chico bag. Chico bags are washable. You can pick your own color. You can save the landfills. Chico bags help many people on this earth, sincerely, Dylan Green.
We added these to our newsletter that went home instead of
Dear parents, I have a lot of plastic bags. Do you? Here are some reasons you might want to buy Chico bags. Buy a Chico bag. It is good for our environment. Using paper bags cut down 14 million trees a year. Help the earth buy a Chico bag. Sincerely, Chelsea Dyer. Chico Mania. The students presented their skit to all the classrooms and the BBN News. The skit encouraged students to purchase a Chico bag and to be part of Chico Mania.
We try to insert the BBN News, the other second grade class did. We have it on DVD here, so.
The kids went around to encourage, they did a skit, and they went around to all the classrooms and presented this skit. And it was really cute. The kids came up with ideas for the skit. We had different characters. We had an ill earth. And hopefully we can get it to play for you guys.
We'll try it at the end.
Okay.
The excitement begins. As orders began, come in. The excitement got bigger and more students began to ask questions and ask their families to buy Chico bags. Staff helps out. Our Title 1 staff gets involved and creates a spectacular showcase that excites our parents and visitors. The staff uses the showcase and topic for discussion in their classrooms.
And Caitlin even practiced the word paraprofessional today. After we had taken it out, we had that in there, but we put staff instead.
Guess how many? The students, the second graders Visit each classroom and ask how many plastic bags are we holding. The winning student won a gift card to the new Romulus Rec Center. And the winner is boy 6th grader Hunter Moore won the contest with the correct guess of 247 plastic bags.
We've got Chico fever. During the month of April, our school sold over 450 Chico bags. Both earned over $1,000 to be spent on helping the environment. But the big question is, how should we spend it? To Justin Swanter. Dear both friends and family, thank you for participating in Chico Mania. We did raise a little bit more than $1,000. Guess what? We sold over 400 Chico bags. The earth has to feel better now if people stop using paper and plastic bags. We need your help. Could you please give us a great idea on what to do with the money? Sincerely, Stephen Maupin. Dear Bart families, thank you for helping with Chico Mania. We sold 400 bags. We wanted to use the money we raised to help the environment. Please share your ideas of how to spend the money with the second grade class rooms. Sincerely, Marcus Jenkins.
We have yet to get suggestions back from the parents. If any of the board members have any ideas of what we could do to spend the money, we really did want to do something to put back into the environment. We thought about planting a tree, but something more creative, if anyone has any ideas. And we also have Chico bags for all of you. Here, you guys each come grab a Chico bag and turn it up there. Take it up there. Find someone to give it to. Just grab one.
I knew you were coming over here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thank you, sir.
guys.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey,
Would
what
somebody
about
like
me?
to
What
show
about
them how they
me?
work?
Thank you. That's my
Okay.
favorite color. Thank you. Thank you. Ooh, I got a
And Dylan right here is just going to present to you how the Chico bag works.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Thank
Let's
you
turn
for
on the
letting
light.
me know that. Thank you.
Do you need some help, kiddo?
Thank you. Oh, yeah, it's my favorite color.
Carl got a purple one.
I might consider trading if somebody, you know.
Red is my favorite color. You want to trade?
No. And you.
That's okay. You can fix it. See, it's as simple as that. The kids had fun kind of putting them together. We finally received our Chico bags Friday, so it's been excitement at birth. Yeah, the skit was really cute.
Okay, sweetheart, how you get it back in there? You just stuff it back in there when you're done? Yep.
You need instructions on how to put it back in there now.
Okay,
You have to find the little pocket.
Find the little pocket and then
She needs them. We got ours back
you
in already.
put it back.
Okay, I got you. Oh, okay, I got it now. Turn it this way. Okay, thank you. I needed that.
Okay, thank you.
They got sleeping bags like that. New
Yeah.
stuff in crayons.
Jackets. When I was in second grade, I got a jacket that
you could
came
fit
in a
on
little
your
pouch.
I've
Yeah.
seen
Oh, yeah, they did.
Well, thank
Yeah, it does hold up to 20 pounds, just as a reminder.
Thank you.
We plan to test that too.
ChicoBag.com.
Well, thank you very much, bar students and teachers. That was a wonderful presentation.
That was great. I love this. Hey, so you gotta turn it up here. Probably got it inside out. Okay, just do it this way.
I think they might have deleted.
Oh, oh gosh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, if you're working on putting you out of a job, that's what I want.
Huh? You know what?
That's your grandson? Oh, good
Just something like
job.
this.
Great job.
Some of them are real close to what we got.
Good
You know, 2,000 pounds of them plastic bags is 1 barrel of oil.
1 barrel of what?
1 barrel of oil.
You get everybody.
These are nice.
409 tomorrow.
What do you mean fill up? It's already went up 30 cents in the last
Gas
week.
will be 409.
Take it easy. Oh, no.
Oh, you did?
He's right,
Oh,
right.
okay. Hi, Kate.
Hey,
How you doing? See what I
young
mean?
lady.
Okay.
Hey, young
Numbers
lady.
are right there, Cheryl.
I don't know, but my daughter's got to move out of the neighborhood. I found out.
Talk with Miss Montjoy. See what she says.
Yeah, she moved in last week.
14.
You're right on the corner, right? Right on the end. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, very nice.
I mean, the numbers are there.
I am finding you. That's your grandson?
Yeah. You know,
Hi. You did a real good job.
I had what because Carl just emailed me monthly based
I
on
met
whatever
him.
he had. So
You did a real good job, young man.
This helps. Okay. Thank you. How you doing? Good.
Bye, Evelyn.
Thank you. All right.
How you doing?
Ready to go?
Yeah.
A lot of very nice presentations from our buildings tonight. It's nice to see the focus on academics.
Wait a minute. It says an 0708 budget, and she's got a 0809.
Right.
Which one is it?
You'll see.
Okay.
Next, we have our Director of Business and Finance, Ms. Papazoglu, to give us kind of a preview of our 0809 budget. I want to remind the board members that we're introducing this as a discussion item this evening. We'll be asking you to take action on approving the 0809 recommended budget, our June 9th board meeting. But we wanted to give you some of the major considerations that are going into the budget, which is still a work in progress at this point. So Ms. Papazoglu is here to update you on that.
I know everyone always says this, but what a hard act to follow. Some really cute kids and some great ideas. Well, thank you for having me tonight. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what next year's budget looks like. And typically when I do that, I try to give you a picture of what the end of the previous year looks like. So what I'm going to do first is give you a little bit of an update on the 2007-2008 budget that we're getting ready to adjust and update in the June board meeting. At the April 14th, I'm going to toggle back and forth here. At the April 14th board meeting, the board got an updated budget. And the only item that changed at that meeting was we moved about $800,000 of reserve funds for roof repairs into the actual line item of the budget. So we're treating it as a capital expenditure at this point and not as a reserve. At that point, there was about, when the data was shared with you, there was about $2.9 million of fund balance. Looking at the numbers today, through the end of June 30th, I'm projecting that that number will be more realistically around $5.5 million. So it's an increase of about $2.8 million. You know, and why does this happen? In June of the month of June, previous to the year that we're adopting a budget, we look at things very conservatively. We project that, in our case last year, that we would have 50 students less, that we'd get no increase in state aid, that insurance, health insurance would increase 14%, that utilities would go up 10%, and as the year progresses, those numbers become more real, and that's exactly what's happened in this picture. For example, in regards to health insurance, the last quarter payment, which was March, April, and May, the actual premiums have went down 30%. What does that tell us? That's telling us that we have healthy staff versus the previous 2 quarters. The only month in question for health insurance is June, and what I projected was that, you know, I took the higher number, okay? Worst case scenario for that. Getting to the details of the $5.5 million, recently, you know, over the course of the last year, we've talked about unreserved fund balance and reserved fund balance. And as far as that piece of information is detailed here, we have reserves for technology, curriculum, the early retirement incentive, and the REA contract obligations. And you can see here that considering all of those reserved amounts, we still have about $4.2 million of unreserved fund balance. Just a reminder, a couple things. unreserved fund balance means the district has an allotment of money that we can choose at this point to do with what we wish. The reserved funds are there, and I've kind of detailed a description here, that they allow the district to guarantee funds for specific programs, technology, curriculum, capital outlay, building, and site updates. Typically, these are things that are big ticket items on our budget. And sometimes we need to set reserves over the course of several years to enable ourselves to buy certain purchases like technology and textbooks. The importance of a fund balance and reserves are for that reason, as well as to take care of any emergency expenditures, any cash flow problems that we may have. I'm happy to say that this year, for the first time in probably the last 3 to 5 years, we are not going to have to go to the bank and ask to borrow to meet payroll obligations in the month of September, because we don't get we do not receive a state aid payment. So we will be able to fund that through the summer without going to the bank, without paying between $75,000 and $100,000 of interest, because the state of Michigan does not provide us an allotment of funds in the month of September. And it's good fiscal management. Just as in your home, you want a rainy day savings in case something happens. This is our, I hate to call it a rainy day, but it's there if we need it for emergency situations. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to move us into what 0809 looks like, and I went one slide too far. And as usual, I'm going to provide you with some assumptions that I'm making today, the best assumptions that I can make standing here in front of you between now and June. That could change. Once again, to budget conservatively, because we do not know what's going to happen. We want to plan for the worst case scenario. Currently, the budget includes a 0 increase in the state aid per pupil amount, a loss of 200 students. We do have a lower than past kindergarten enrollment at this point, and we're wanting to make sure that we allot for that in the future. That staff reductions would have to take place with those loss of students, that we are meeting contractual obligations with our union groups, that the retirement rate is set at 16.54, which is down, it's good news, that utilities would increase 10%, health insurance would increase 10%. This budget also includes almost $2 million of capital outlay expenditures to include replacing 7 buses at around $530,000, technology updates and replacements of about $433,000. Without getting into too much detail, it will take care of some of our desktop problems that we have over the course of the next 3 years. That's what this expenditure, as well as future reserves, will do for the district. And it also assumes that we will spend $910,000 on roof repair and operation replacements. When I say operation replacements, it means the maintenance vehicles. We have the need for a large piece of lawn equipment that we need to replace at this time too. And lastly, it does include the assumption that we would continue services provided through Professional Contract Management Incorporated. And I just thought I'd share a little bit of data in regards to PCMI. The savings through March 28th was about $53,000, so we are on target with our initial expectation of around 70. And I just listed, to be clear, all the positions right now that I see us paying PCMI for, which include various substitute positions, non-athletic REA stipends, athletic workers and coaches, reteachers, down to the lifeguards in the district. And we still offer an opt-out provision for employees close to retirement so that we do not affect their retirement earnings when they choose to move forward with that. The other thing I'd like to mention at this point, we feel that all the kinks have been worked out administratively, and that the program is actually running very smoothly at this point. Okay, the nuts and bolts of the budget, and then like I said, it's a broad overview. I'll share the details with you more in June. But if you were to look at this small piece of figures for next year in regards to revenue, we look like with this 200 student declining enrollment and no state aid increase per pupil, that we would be bringing in almost $41 million. On the flip side of that, we'd be spending approximately almost $45 million, which would leave us in a deficit position of $3.9 million. Keep in mind that 3.9 of that is, or 2 million of that 3.9 are for those capital expenditures, okay? Now, I want to make this, and jump in if you have any questions, because I'm not a teacher, so I'm trying to explain it the best that I can. We talked about the $5.5 million fund balance that I expect to end 07-08 in. If we were just to look at the problem for next year going into it, that we would have a deficit of $3.9 million, I'm recommending that we offset that fund balance that's coming forward for 07-08, the $5.5 million, that we offset our problem for this year, $3.9 million, off of that, take that right off the top, that we add reserves for technology and curriculum. Technology, $300,000, that's to continue the replacement program of our desktops over the course of 3 years. So year one would be next year, and then year two would be the next. And then in regards to curriculum, with our new curriculum director, hopefully we can make strides with the math and science programs and have maybe use that as a capital expenditure next year as opposed to reserve. And if in doing so, that would leave us with an unreserved fund balance at the end of next year of about $924,000. There's an asterisk next to that number for a good reason. I wanted to point out that this year, actually at the end of last year going into this year, our unreserved fund balance was about $1.8 million, which is around 4%. Remember, MSBO recommends anywhere between 5 and 15% of fund balance be unreserved in case of emergency situations. So we're not there yet, but we're getting there. Okay, so my recommendation as the business director here would be to maintain or sustain our unreserved fund balance of about $1.8 million. So what I would ask the board to do is to meet the $900,000 that we have in unreserved. I would like to see us get to that $1.8 million of unreserved funds for the rainy day. What does that mean for us? That would mean that we would need approximately $1 million to balance the budget to meet all of those obligations. How are we going to do that? One of the possible ways, and I wanted to bring it to your attention, is the revenue side of the equation. And in particular, the revenue side of the equation is the number of students we have and the amount of money that we get from the state of Michigan per pupil. Now, there's 5 different scenarios here, and they all should be treated independently. They're not added together. So for example, if we were to get $71 in state aid per pupil, that would generate $267,000 to the district, which would we'd be able to use that to offset that $1 million we need to balance the budget. The third to fourth scenario down, the $967,000 and the $1.3 million, if either one of these situations, or even the fifth one at $1.6 million, if any of that, those pieces of information were to come in and be positive, we would solve our deficit problem immediately on the revenue side. And we wouldn't have to really look at the expenditure side, set aside from what our enrollment's going to be. So we're hoping that these things do come true. Unfortunately, as you know from history, we don't know this information sometimes to the end of June, sometimes to the fall. So it would be really hard for me to stand in front of you today and ask you to adopt a budget in June that included a revenue increase of this nature, because it's just something that I don't think we can put our hands on. I think it's something we can put in our pocket and pull out at a later date if the state comes true with their numbers. So where are we with that said? We have an obligation to be fiscally responsible. And at this point, the most fiscally responsible decision that we could make would be to review our budget for possible reductions in expenditures. Knowing that if on the revenue side that we do see a smaller loss of students, or that we do get money back from the state per pupil, that we would have the ability to reinstate positions and programs at that point. And that's really all I have to share with you. I'll be back in June to give you more details of that, but it is something to think about between now and the end of the school year. Thank you.
Sherry, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
When do we have to present the balanced budget to the state? Is it June 1st or July 1st?
As a school district, it's June 30th, 2008 would be when we have to adopt next year's budget.
Okay. Representative Hopgood was at the Romulus house tonight. I went there, and his hope is that they would have their budget by November. So typically with the state, we have to have a balanced budget, not knowing what kind of money we're going to have.
And this is really our biggest dilemma. It's the same, it's shared with every public school district in Michigan, is that we have to, by statute, approve a budget before July 1st, by June 30th, and yet there are many uncontrolled variables. And unfortunately, with this being an election year, we're not likely to see the approval of a state school aid package. So we have no idea whether we're going to get $71 per pupil or 71 cents per pupil increase, or nothing at all, until the Senate and the House come to agreement, and they're not really close to that. And the word is that that will be sometime in coming. However, the nice thing is that even though we don't want to use it, we do have a fund balance that we can fall back on, so that if all else fails, and as Sherry has indicated, if we do see a decline in enrollment of about 200 students and we don't see a single penny increase in state aid, we're looking at about a $1 million shortfall. The good news is that we have the money in the bank to fall back on if we have to. We hope that we don't have to do that. We hope we can make up for that shortfall by not experiencing that severe decline in student enrollment, and also that a couple of other things go our way, namely that that our state aid increases, and that we see some other things that that offer some favorable outcomes to the district. Any other questions?
I actually, Mr. President, if I can, I was just actually concerned because of the, when Sherry mentioned the loss of 200 students, that seems worst case scenario to me, because we've never, to my knowledge, have lost that many.
That's
within a
correct.
year.
Over the course of, since I've been here, we have had stable enrollment. Once again, it's a worst case scenario. And there's a few factors I think that are involved with coming up with that number. One are our kindergarten numbers, and some other issues that are going on in the district south of the airport.
Well, there are really two major considerations that we look at in making those projections, and I want everyone to know that that's not a number we just pull out of the hat. We track our kindergarten enrollment, and right now we're down about 190 kindergarten students from where we were last year at the start of school. Now, we anticipate that we'll take enrollments all summer long. Last year we had pretty vigorous kindergarten enrollments in August. We worked like mad. If you've driven around town and didn't have your eyes closed, you've seen our signs all over. And that's been marginally successful, but until those students show up, we really can't make sure that we provide classrooms for them, because we can't afford to do that. We have contractual obligations to our teachers primarily. We have to give them 60-day notification if we're not going to need them, and so that's something that that will come up for action later this evening. But so we look at kindergarten enrollment. The other half of that equation is we always compare the number of students that are graduating with the number of students that are coming in kindergarten, and so if we can make that up. The other problem that we have in the district is we have a large proportion of our population that elects to go other ways at the 6th and 7th grade level. We lose students there typically every year. This year, our middle school is down about 47 students from where they were a year ago. And by just promoting everybody up a grade level, we anticipate they'll be down another 40 students next year at the middle school. So we've had to reduce some positions at the middle school. It's not something that we like to do, and we hope that those students will come back. But right now, again, we have to look at those numbers and look at our historical data in order to make a prediction for the upcoming school year. And so that's where we come up with the 200 students. It's a very conservative estimate, and the reason we do it that way is because it's easier for us to put teachers back in as the numbers come in and we have to add classrooms. We really can't call teachers in the 11th hour, 2 days before school starts and say, I'm sorry, you don't have a job anymore because the students didn't come. We have to do that 60 days ahead of time.
I got a question. I'm not sure if it'd be Sherry or Carl, but is there a way that we can possibly, as board members, get some kind of data, like on a monthly basis, of how many students in our district has requested their records to leave our district, so we can kind of maybe see if there's a trend? Or, I mean, if the families are moving because of jobs, we understand, but if they're going to other schools, why are they going to schools? Can we find out what do we need to change to try to keep these students? Sir, is that something possible?
Well, we can give you data on student enrollment, certainly monthly we compile that. And normally the schools log whether or not those students are moving or whether they're changing schools. Normally we don't get a lot of students who are changing over to charter schools or parochial schools during the school year. Normally that happens in between school years. Normally the students we lose during school year are move-outs. And unfortunately we've had a lot of those, and our big concern with the gray cloud that the airport has cast over our district is that we may not get a lot of move-ins to balance with the move-outs. So we're pretty nervous about that. Next fall's numbers will be very important to us.
And one more thing, the numbers, they do look dismal. Anytime you talk about having to cut funds, expenditures, that's not a positive thing. But on the good side of it, we're not having to borrow against the state. And the other side of it is that we're in a place where we can spend $2 million on infrastructure that's in technology that's been needed for so many years. And the district's moving in the right direction to maintain these types of items, especially technology for our students. They need the technology to learn, so.
Just one more question, Carl. Any plans to extend the, and I can't think of the name of this software that we use currently with the, Carl, if you can help me out.
Zangle?
Zangle. Is that involved in this 2008-2009?
The software is out there. RISA constantly talks to its business managers about purchasing the program. There is a cost to it, and I'd have to really look in to find out how many dollars per student. Are you talking about the program where the parents can go on and see how the students are progressing?
That's not.
It's called. It's
Parent Connect.
That's correct.
Yeah, and there's no cost to Parent Connect.
There's a few things. I think scanners, there's some equipment cost to it, and in the next couple years there would be a cost to it. Right now, no, if you joined, but 3 years down the road, there will be some type of cost.
See, I was always under the impression that we've always had the software to do it, and we've always had the ability. We just haven't had. I know we've had unfortunate situations in that department in the past, and I just thought that we needed someone who could develop it for us because it's already there. We just need to enhance what we already have, is what I thought. You could be right as far as scanning because I know this is so detailed to where the parents can log online at any given time and they can see all sorts of things. I mean, grades, what their children had for lunch. I mean, we're talking about a lot of stuff that these parents have the ability to see, and it really is helpful to parents who do work full-time jobs and that sort of thing. So I just didn't know if that was in this budget.
It is not. But as Carl mentioned, the majority of the cost is being picked up by RISA right now. There'd be minimal cost in regards to scanners, and I think a couple printers I think are needed. I just had this information proposed to me at last Thursday's meeting at RISA.
And if I could explain, we are on track to have Parent Connect at the middle school and the high school for the fall. The scanning and those equipment costs, I believe, are considerations for the elementary level, primarily because the elementary, we don't have an electronic report card that's compatible with Zangle at this point in time, so that's going to take a little bit more legwork to get on board. However, most of the demand for Parent Connect is at the secondary level because, again, the students have 5 or 6 teachers a day. It's very difficult for parents and teachers to stay in contact at the elementary level. There's one teacher for every 30 students, and usually it's a little more up close and personal. But we need to do a little bit of legwork with our report cards before we can go online with the elementary. But if all things go our way, we should have that on track very shortly after the start of the school year without any, as Sherry said, without any significant expenditures.
Next item on the agenda would be communications and expressions from the public. We had no one request to speak, so we will move on to item F, items of interest from the superintendent.
Okay, first item, very significant, and as I think everybody knows, we had a board election last week, and it seems like a long time ago, but it was just last week. And I'd like to congratulate our returning board member, Mr. Kuderich, was reelected. And I would also like to welcome Ms. Danielle Funderburg, who is in attendance this evening, as she is at most board meetings, to our board as a newly elected member. She'll be replacing retiring Betty Elanasi. Welcome. And congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
In your packet, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Okay. In your packet, you have various updates. You have the Barth News, the last two editions, the Apparent Parent tab. You also have information on the Wayne County Association of School Boards general membership meeting. You have a newsletter from Hale Creek, the Reading First Hawk highlights. You also have a green folder in your packet, which is the annual RESA budget. Just like we have to approve our budget, they also have to have theirs approved with district input. Because we just received this, we know that you didn't have a chance to go through it in detail. It is a pretty long, involved budget. The administration will go through and make a recommendation for you for the next board meeting, but we will be asking for you to take action on that at the next board meeting. You also have a newsletter from Chartwells and a thank you from board member Betty Lanasi in your packet.
Okay, now we're caught up. Under item G of the agenda, we have questions and/or concerns of board members. Mrs. Buckley.
I just wanted to mention, last week I went to a National Honor Society induction at the high school, and we had a record number of students. We had 38, and there were also the top students from each elementary school were honored there, and our staff, we're doing something right. So I was so happy because that is something near and dear to my heart, and it shows that we are all about academics. So I just wanted to mention that. And congratulations to all the students and the parents and the staff.
This is the second year in a
job.
row they set a record for the number of inductees.
Any other board members? Okay, I get to talk for the next half hour.
With your pencil then.
I had the opportunity last week. Number one, I went to Barth Elementary School where they had a fundraiser for cancer. They had a walk. I thought it was very successful. My understanding was that I think about every student in the school walked, the staff, parents. I walked. I had trouble keeping up with the kindergartners, but I give it a shot. So I think that was very successful, and I think they really deserve a congratulations, especially the students who really sacrificed for that. I need the board member. Oh. $1,900?
Great job.
Great. Yeah, it was great, because I know when I was there, they were continuous groups coming in, and I thought that was very good. Anything else from that one? I need the Board of Ed members to look at your calendar, and the next board meeting, we will select what schools everybody should be going to for moving up ceremonies. So if you can find which one fits your schedule, we'll try and get every building covered and, hopefully give everybody a choice. So make sure you look that over for next board meeting. We need to congratulate the Romulus Community High boys basketball team. They won the state championship for alternative high schools. This is the third year in the last 4 that they've won state championship. Mr. Weiss already kind of made mention about a Wayne County Association School Board meeting Thursday. Anybody that can make it, it's at 7 o'clock at the RESA building. I think the guest speaker is going to be a CPA who is probably going to be talking about some of the new bookkeeping requirements and things for the school districts. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Don't ever say something to the principal at Barth. I made the mistake of giving her a hard time the night of the National Honor Society induction. I went up to her and I told her, geez, you need to be in the building once in a while. I said, every time I'm there, you're not there. Well, Tuesday she was in Lansing. They were receiving an award for one of their programs. And I don't know, it's about 3 times or so that they've gotten awards. And she says, and then it was one other day I said something. She says, well, I was there. We were having a ceremony. She says, but you show up tomorrow. That happened to be Friday, and I had to work out, so she got me. I guess that's all I have.
Okay, I got a couple here.
Mr. Cootery.
Yeah, last Friday, I had the privilege of going to Rommel, and what would you say, Mrs. McAnally? Monitoring a class while all the staff was, the PTC was honoring all the staff where they could all sit down at one time, once a year. All the staff members could sit down and have lunch together, which is not something that can be easily done in elementary. And Mrs. McAnally put me up to the test over there in that school. Was that a 5th grade class? And I almost had them in the push-up position outside in line, but they were really quiet after they started looking at me. Most of them were football players, but it was really fun and exciting. And then I also attended another best assembly at Corey, which Mrs. West was very fond and proud to giving me a Corey Cougar shirt, so I'm officially branded its property of. So thank you.
Anything else? Is that it? Any other board members? Okay, looks like we're through that portion of the agenda. Next portion of the agenda will be the convening of an executive session. We would need a motion and support.
Mr. President, I will make a motion that we move into executive session.
Support.
Well, not yet.
7:50.
We got to take roll here.
7:57.
We got to have roll call first. Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Freyer, supported by Mr. Kuderik, to go into executive session. The reason for the executive session is a resolution for proposed layoff and some information with Wayne County MEA, NEA, which is basically notifying teachers of layoff. We do need a roll call vote to go to executive session.
Ms. Kraut?
Yes.
Ms. Freyer?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes.
Mr. Minkevich?
Yes.
Mr. Kudik?
Vote is in favor of attending, 5-0. There will be action taken after the executive session. And we are now adjourned to executive session. To return to regular session, we need a motion and support.
I'd like to make a motion we return back from executive session.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Kuderik, supported by Mrs. Kraut, to convene or reconvene into regular session. Any board members with questions or concerns? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Ms. Kraut?
Yes.
Ms. Freyer?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley?
Yes.
Mr. Minkevich?
Yes.
Mr. Kudik?
All right, we are reconvened into regular session at 8:44 p.m. The next item on the agenda would be the Wayne County MEA, NEA layoff. Again, we need motion support.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion, due to the projected decline in student enrollment, move the Board of Education accept the recommendation from administration to lay off 16 teachers effective at the end of the day, June 13th, 2008.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Kuderick, supported by Mrs. Buckley, to accept the administration recommendation to lay off 16 teachers at the end of the day, June 13th, 2008. Do we have any questions or concern from board members? Seeing none, we will take a vote. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we adjourn.
We have a motion by Mrs. Buckley.
Support.
Mrs. Freyer.
Freyer.
We have a motion by Mrs. Buckley, support by Mrs. Freyer, to adjourn the meeting. Anyone with any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 All those in opposed say no. Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned.